Rolling is a unique technique. Unlike pressing, grasping, kneading, which are typically quite intuitive techniques that require very little practice to become proficient at, rolling can feel quite awkward and unnatural to perform when we're first starting out. Rolling is a difficult technique to master, no question. It takes time and practice to really nail it. Most people are one-hand dominant, so when starting, focus on your dominant hand. But that being said, it's essential to learn how to perform rolling with both hands. Rolling is typically done for more extended periods, a minimum of 1 minute, and as long as 20 minutes in some situations and cases. Being able to switch hands will allow you to sustain the technique for more extended periods. Also, the area of the body that you're working on might require you to use different hands. We can use rolling in local regions such as the shoulder, or we can apply it on a larger area by moving gradually along a meridian or a part of a meridian. Rolling can be gentle and superficial, or it can be deep, but usually we use a moderate amount of pressure. Rolling is particularly effective on the lateral and posterior neck, shoulder, and back, although it can be applied to all body regions. So for the rolling technique, we can either sit in a stool beside the table or we can stand beside the table in our horse stance. I'm going to be demonstrating both. Let's start with sitting. So taking our rice bag, I'm going to place it directly in front of the shoulder of the hand that I'm going to be using. I'm right hand dominant, so I'll start there. So starting with your hand right in the middle of the rice bag, and notice I just let the weight of my hand drop into that rice bag, paying attention to my shoulder, my elbow, my wrist, nice and relaxed. Take a breath and center yourself for a moment before we start. And when we begin, we're basically, in the beginning, simply going to be pronating and supinating our forearm, meaning putting the palm a little bit down and then palm up. We're not going all the way palm down, just almost as if we're going right onto that ulnar surface of our hand, onto that hypothenar eminence, and then we go palm up. So we're basically rolling our hand back and forth between pronation and supination. So this is a relatively moderate pace, but when we're starting, we start nice and slow. All right, now notice, since I'm staying just in one spot, my shoulder isn't doing anything. All of this is coming from the elbow, but I'm getting a nice, good rhythm. And I can maintain this rhythm in this spot for as long as I need to. As you practice, start in the very middle and just roll your hand through pronation and supination. And you could eventually increase the pace. Excellent. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be moving along the rice bag. So I'm going to start on the far left side of the rice bag and be moving my way to the right. And this is a little bit more how you'll end up doing it when you're working on a back or a leg. So starting on the left side, I begin to get my rhythm with that little bit of pronation and supination, but now I'm going to include my shoulder. My shoulder is going to be driving my arm along. So you see how now it's the entire arm that's moving. It's pronation and supination of my forearm, but the side-to-side movement, the movement from one side of the rice bag to the other side of the rice bag, that's coming from my shoulder. So it's a very coordinated movement. And as I finish one roll, see I just slide my hand back to the beginning. So let's slow this down now. Pronation and supination, and then the shoulder abducts and pulls my arm to the side. And once I reach the end of the bag, I just slide my hand back and I begin again. It is, of course, important that we can practice this technique with both hands and arms. So I'm just going to shift over and practice it now on my non-dominant hand. So I'm going to place my left hand in the middle of the bag, just as I did before, with my palm facing up. And I just pronate and supinate, nice and easy, remembering to stay relaxed in the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. And in that one spot, I can just start to move a little bit faster and a little bit faster, staying in one spot. Now if I want to move, as I did before, I'll just start on the far right side, and allow that palm to go to the sky. You'll notice as I bring my hand into supination, my palm opens up and then slide back. Remember, be patient with yourself. This technique takes time and practice. All right, so now standing at the side of the table, I'm standing in my horse stance. And of course, if I had a client on the table, they'd be a little bit higher, so the rice bag is indeed a bit low, but we can just adopt our stance in order to adjust. So the same idea, I'm gonna have the rice bag directly in front of my operating hand, or in front of the same hip. I'll place my hand in the middle of the bag and I'll just pronate and supinate. Now the main difference here is the pressure is gonna be a little bit more on the knuckle than it is on that ulnar surface. So, hand in the same position, and you see how my hand basically just opens up and closes. It's like I just open my hand to the sky and close it. Okay, so that's one stationary movement. What happens if I want to move along this rice bag? So to move along that rice bag, I'm going to start at this left side, same thing, and I'll get my rhythm going, and now I start to include the shoulder as that shoulder brings my hand from one side of the bag to the other. And I want you to notice how the rice bag is bunching up under my hand. I'm not applying any pressure at all. That's just coming from the weight of my hand. Sliding back. So now let's take a look at using this technique on a live demonstration.